Coming up this week on Beyond the Vibe, we're joined by Alan Nimmo of Kinky.
I was a very reluctant singer for a lot of years. I sang because I wanted to be the front man of the band. You know, I find it strange when I talk about like how long I've been doing this, but because I honestly, genuinely feel like I'm just starting. I've got an old, I found an old years ago. I found an old 20-watt Marshall JNP head, 20 watt, and it's an absolute cracker. I remember we showed up to we did a festival just outside Barcelona. I came on and I was like moving this big head off this cabinet, sticking this wee tiny one up there, and I could see all the Spanish lads all kind of like, and I just sort of said, trust me lads, you may laugh at the size of it, but wait till you hear the sound of it. And they were like, yeah, okay mate, and then I switched it on and played it, and they were flat. I was like surrounded by them going like, man, what's that?
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Vibe, the show that cuts deep into the world of music.
My name is Aaron Daly, guitarist in UK band These Wicked Rivers, and I'm here with Mr. Music Videographer and Photographer, it's Mr. Ryan Vasey. It's a bit of a difficult one this week on Beyond the Vibe because we found out last weekend just gone for the passing of Tom Layton of Wolfjaw, and I think it's affected kind of everybody in the rock community. And the outpouring of kind of love and emotion, you know, and memories of Tom are massive. Obviously, we had our return gig after COVID with Wolfjaw, and it was great to see Tom and his partner Heather. Obviously, sadly, he leaves behind. Heather, they only got married, bless him, about a month ago. And it's just such a tragic loss. But I think with moments like this, right, it's important to remember Tom for how much love and how much people just felt comfortable with him as soon as they spoke to him.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he was on the show last year.
One of our first ones, wasn't he?
Yes, he was only episode 6. Very early adopter. I mean, a big thing for me was he goes right near the end of the program. He says, "So I've been listening every week." And like for me, like, because I'm not like in this musician world and stuff. For me, it was like, this is serious now, because like, now we've got like a
Tom from
like a real
Wolfjaw
musician that's listening every week,
podcast,
you know. And you know, he said at the end, because he teased at the time about he goes, we've for the re-release of Starting Gun, we're putting a cover on it, and he did this kind of like little smile. And like he wouldn't say what it was, but once the episode had finished, he was like, right, I can tell you now. And he goes, we're doing the You've Got Another Thing Coming cover with the Judas Priest connection. And he was like, you know, I'll send you it. And this is like months in advance. It's ridiculous. It was like the first mix, I think, at the time.
It was good. It was awesome, wasn't it?
It was great, but like for me, it was like this level of trust. You know, he just met me. Like, I could have just gone, "Thank you very much, Tom. I'm going to share this everywhere." But you know, he just immediately trusted me, and you know, obviously he knows you as well. And
I mean, we first gigged with them when they were the Bad Flowers. We played with them at the Asylum with Those Damn Crows. I mean, which is crazy to think, you know, all that time away. And Tom was a bit of a legend of the scene, and I think we've seen that from like the outpouring of love from everyone. Like everyone seemed to know him, you know, because Bad Flowers were one of the first bands to really push through. Yeah. And obviously they went to Wolfjaw, and it felt like Wolfjaw were really starting to break through. You know, obviously had the album out, you know, kind of last year, and then we're about to tour with Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons, and it's just, you know, and I think one of the things I keep thinking of is Dale, man, because obviously Dale's been in the band with him for so long since they were kids, you know, and I've just got so much, you know, just love and just thoughts for everyone, you know, that knew Tom personally, as well as everyone that had gigged with him, you know, because I think he had that effect on everyone. And the best way I think to remember Tom is to play some Bad Flowers and Wolfjaw and remember the power and the creative force that he had and the impact that he had in our lives through his music and his personality. So yeah, bit of a difficult one, but want it to be a celebration more than anything else.
Absolutely.
So obviously on this week we've got a bit of a different show on Beyond the Vibe. We're coming out on a Thursday.
It feels strange.
It does. Thursday feels different.
The world is different on a Thursday.
People always say that, don't they? It don't feel like a Thursday. It don't feel like a Monday. Yeah, we were out on a Thursday this week as tomorrow is the first leg of King King's UK tour, and we're speaking this week with Alan Nimmo of King King as a bit of a King UK tour special. It's very interesting with the King King tour, right? Because we when we chat about this in the podcast, don't we? The fact that he split it into two legs with two different support bands, and when I saw it, I thought, oh, this is a bit weird. But when you look at it, and when we chatted in the podcast with Alan, you think this is actually is this how tours should be? What's your vibes on it? Do you think it works? Or
yes, I mean this was it. I mean when I first saw that, I was like you. I was like, what's he doing? You know,
the classic Vasey. What's he doing?
Into two hours with two different support bands. How's that going to work? But then he speaks about why, and then you all of a sudden go, oh yeah,
well,
that's
I mean,
probably what everybody else should be doing.
I mean, we've just been on tour with Blackwater, and it's like when you're touring for so many days and then you have a break and stuff, it's awesome because you're really in the flow of it. But at the same time, when it ends, it's like, oh, you really get the tour blues. We chatted about it with Chris last week because he just come off the Blackstone tour. But I suppose when they finish this leg, King, they'll feel refreshed. They won't feel, and then they won't feel the blues because they know they've got another one in February with a completely different band. And what about them supports as well? I'm well into, because obviously Remember Rivers Meet, I think they're a great kind of compliment for each other, and obviously the Damn Truth are just a killer band that are just smashing it at the minute. So yeah, I really envy people that we're heading down for King King's UK tour, which kicks off tomorrow in Leeds. But if they want a bit of a taster of Alan Nimmo from King King, where can they find that sort of thing?
Well, they can find and hear that.
Hello, so we're joined by Alan Nimmo of King King. Thanks for joining us, Alan.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Cheers, thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure.
Now, one thing that we like to do on the show is we like to go back to the origins of a musician. So with that in mind, when was the first time do you remember hearing music and thinking, like, this is what I want to do? Was there a moment for you?
Do you know what? I actually, sadly enough, no, I don't think it is a moment for me. I think music was something that that was always there in the background when I was a kid. My father was a singer, and my mum she's a huge blues fan and a sort of classic rock fan. She loves all that kind of music and sort of put me onto a lot of bands at the time when I was a kid. But and I think it was more like later on in years, even all those early influences really started to, they started sort of bubbling up to the surface again, especially when it came to songwriting. I realised where the influences had came from, listening to bands like Free and Bad Company and like everything, Rod Stewart, Steve Marriott, all that kind of stuff, B.B. King, Clapton. So, but I think that the moment that when I knew I wanted to do music for a living, or I knew I was going to pursue music in some kind of form, was I think I was in I must have been about 12 maybe, and I remember learning the chords to Whiskey in the Jar. And then after that I started I wanted to put a band together with some schoolmates, and I ended up, my first gig I ever played was to 800 screaming school kids at the age of 13. So I think at that point it was like, and then it was more of a kind of a series of things that you just, like, the more you do it, the more you get into it. Then we started sort of playing little gigs here and there in church halls and stuff like that, and then I met some people who were a bit older than me, and I started playing in a blues band. By that time, I was listening to guys like Peter Green and Gary Moore, even stuff like that, Clapton and B.B. King, and all my schoolmates were listening to Happy Mondays, and I was listening to B.B. King live at the Regal. So it's a bit strange, but yeah. So continually on, sort of. Then, after all that, I'm still not sure if I want to do this.
So at this point, when you had the school gig and you learned, like you say, you learned the chords to Whiskey in the Jar, were you singing at that point, Alan? Were the two together, or were you just the guitar?
No, yeah, I sang not because I wanted to. I didn't really. I was a very reluctant singer for a lot of years. I sang because I wanted to be the front man of the band, and that for me, singing comes with that job. So I
Right, okay.
did it. Yeah, I was a very reluctant singer, and then I kind of, until I sort of found my way with it a wee bit, and I kind of got a wee bit better at it, I suppose.
we seem to find this a lot, particularly with guitarists.
Yes.
Is that they kind of they get pushed into it, or they do it like you say because they want to be a front man, or they want to be they want to be the songwriter, and they know that's the best place to be if you want that role, you know. And then over time, they just seem to get better and better at it. And then, but I'm sure fans of King can't believe that in them early years it was something that you didn't really feel like you had the calling for, you know.
Do you know, it was one of those things where, you know, I think that for a long, long time, especially before King, obviously playing with my brother in the Nimmo Brothers band, we were more of a kind of like your kind of blues rock type band, and I sang in that band because, and well, I sang, but I was singing like I was filling in the space, between guitar solos. You know what I mean? It was one of those things, to be honest. I never really put the right amount of thought into it until I started concentrating properly on I think I started writing songs when I formed King. I wrote songs before that for Nimmo Brothers, but they were more like functional sort of blues rock songs. Like I say, that just sort of you sang a few rhyming lyrics here and there about you know, about your woman leaving you, and then you played this guitar solo, and that's, do you know what? That's some of that's still great, but no, when I started sort of properly writing songs, then again, that's when that whole the influence thing of all the bands that I listened to when I was a kid, that's when it all started coming to the forefront of my mind, and then I realised I was phrasing all my singing like Paul Rodgers, like David Coverdale, like Danny Bowes. I mean, I say it now, don't get me wrong here, I was phrasing like them. I'm not saying I'm not singing like those guys. Those are the real deal. But you know, that was the influence, you know, and I started singing in that way, that, you know, that kind of let's say phrasing, and I realised that's where the influence was, and it helps me, you know. And then all of a sudden I started realising, like, especially with doing a radio show as well, it's like I realised that I'm kind of an 80s guy, you know. I love all the 80s rock bands, and, like, you know, everything, that whole AOR thing and everything all melodic, and it's a massive influence on me now, and I realise that now, and I didn't know it at the time at all, and then it sort of hit me, and I'm trying to use it to my advantage now.
So you kind of spoke about it then, sort of the progression towards King. So for those that don't know, how did King come together?
Well, for the last, it's coming on for 26 years now, I've been playing in a band, the Nimmo Brothers, but with my brother. And in 2008, I wanted to do something a wee bit different. I wanted to try something alongside that. I mean, the Nimmo Brothers didn't ever end. It wasn't a kind of thing, we're packing that band up now. We just slowed it down a little bit, because I wanted to, I had a hankering for a long time to work with keyboards. I wanted in particular a Hammond, and again, I think it was because of the early Whitesnake stuff, the Rainbow, the sort of the Glenn Hughes, Coverdale.
Yeah, I love all that stuff, man. It's awesome.
Stuff, you know, that. And I had ideas about songs and how I wanted songs to sound that needed that kind of sound. That it just needed that Hammond and the piano stuff. I had ideas for songs and stuff. So I wanted to try something a bit different, and then to be honest, we first started it with the players we had at the time. We were a real blues band, you know. We were probably more of a blues band than the Nimmo Brothers were. We based ourselves on bands like the Red Devils, the Fabulous Thunderbirds, Ronnie Earl, that kind of thing. So, but then once the songwriting started, it was very noticeable that we were going in a different direction from blues a little bit, but it was always going to be in there anyway, no matter what. But it was great, and that's kind of how we started it. And then very, very quickly, it kind of rose up to, you know, we were doing the little blues clubs. Then we kind of quickly started to move up into the slightly larger venues and that. Then we started winning a load of awards, which was great. We got all the blues accolades from the Blues Society, and then we ended up getting it so many times. We were in the Hall of Fame, stuff like that kind of thing. And And then we did a tour with John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, which
amazing.
Changed everything for us. We went from playing to 150, 200 people to overnight. We after doing a tour with John, we started doing city theatres at, you know, at the 600 mark, and then we did 5 nights with Thunder. 5 nights. It changed our lives. That was it.
Amazing, man.
But we started really filling rooms after that, and that was amazing. And then after that, of course, we did a tour with Europe, and we got to fulfil some boyhood dreams. We played at the Albert Hall, we played the Wembley Arena, and you know, things like that are great. But you know what? I'll be satisfied when we're doing it on our own steam. So there's more to come from King.
Amazing.
So of course, King King's 5th album, Maverick, which came out in November, which of course you can now finally take out on tour. Compared to your previous releases, did you do anything differently this time, like whether that be in the writing or recording process?
Yeah, I think all of that, really, to be honest. We used a different studio, a different engineer, and we really. And in fact, this was the first outing as writing partnership between myself and Johnny, our keyboard player. That was the first time we had sort of decided to write together, and that was a real eye opener. It was a real pleasure, actually. I normally for years I used to get in a. I hated getting into the studio. I hated being cooped up in a room, and I didn't really ever look forward to getting the albums done. I wanted the albums done and out of the way, you know what I mean? Because I hated having to sort of lock myself in dark rooms, and I like the sunshine, you know what I mean? And we don't get much of it up here, so I like the daylight at least. So so the songwriting that Johnny and I decided, once we sort of realised that we've actually had a real cracking chemistry in that sense, and then we started. You know, I think we've always prided ourselves on detail, you know, paying attention to detail when we're writing songs. But I think this Maverick went to another level in terms of how we pieced the songs together, how we even wrote and produced the songs as well as paying attention to all that detail. And that, I think, made the difference, of course, with the different studio and a different engineer and stuff like that, with a different kind of outlook. I think he managed to get, you know, we wanted to focus a lot of the stuff on ironically, my voice. I'm a reluctant singer. But he managed to find a way to get the best out of my voice and make it sound as good as it sounded on record anyway, as well, with whatever, you know, tricks he used. I'm not really a technical guy. I've never been one of those fellas. I'm more of a hammer and chisel fella, but I'll leave all the computer work to those guys. But yeah, so it was kind of like that. It was a real difference, and for me anyway, and for us boys, it was a difference in the quality as well. It was very noticeable, and almost as well as it being a kind of scratching the surface type of thing as well. So because we're looking forward now to doing the next album.
Yeah, of course.
Because the new guys that we brought in really brought to life the vision that we had for the songs. They were so capable as well as players, and getting the best out of them was a real pleasure. And for once, I really enjoyed doing this album. I really did. I loved every minute of it. I had a great time doing it. Whereas before in the past, I've kind of been like, oh God, when's it over? You know, like, and then I'll force myself to get the songs written and done, and I go, I want to be back in the road touring. I want to be outside doing something else. But this was great. I loved doing this. It was real pleasure to do.
No, that's really cool, man. It's good that even after obviously the band have been together for about 12, 13 years, and you yourself have been gigging for like sort of 20, 25 years, that you're still able to find new things and new writing partnerships and new energy going into the studio. And the fact that you normally dislike it, and then all of a sudden this sudden change, you're able to go come out of it with that positive energy is great, man.
You know what, man? It's like, I find it strange when I talk about like how long I've been doing this, but because I honestly, genuinely feel like I'm just starting. You know, it's like this
well, you're always learning,
learn
aren't
something
you?
every day in this business. You know, whether it's, you know, there's always something new there's always something you've no done, you've no realised. There's always a penny to drop somewhere, and I think it is. Again, it's like, you know, like we talked earlier on about you know, what made you want to do this? It's like, I know that for me, I know me. And if after all these years I can still get excited about this, then this is me for life. This is who I am. It's what I am. So it's not like this is not something that I'm going to get bored with. I can't live without this. This whole period where we've all been locked up, not being able to do this has been horrendous, as and no doubt been for all of us, you know. And it's going to be so great just to finally get back to doing what we do.
No, it's also
maybe a wee bit daunting, to be honest, but you know, being away from it for so long, you think to yourself, we're a bit out of practice here, you know, and you can rehearse all you like, but until you're on that stage doing it in anger, it's there's a wee bit left to jump. So we'll find it when we get there.
I really struggled with the physical thing of getting back here. I mean, I've made this joke many times on the podcast, but I was close to like bloody collapsing after the first couple of gigs, man. I was like, bloody hell, because the adrenaline, you forget the feeling and the rush. Yeah. And when I was coming off stage, I'd forgotten how to really come down from that, you know, and to process that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we did our first show there in August. And that was probably getting on for 2 years since the last time we were on stage.
Wow.
And we went to Holmfirth to do a one-off show.
And, great venue.
And honestly, I was exhausted. I was like, yeah, you and I think as well, because of the anticipation of it all, the tension and everything else, and then you got on stage and you probably exude more energy than you would normally on stage, because it's like you've not been there, you've not done it for ages, and it's like I walked off the stage, man, and I was like out for the count, man. I was knackered. And then I had to drive back to Glasgow.
Bloody hell. Is there a personal favourite for you off the album, Alan? One for fans to look out for when you finally get to go out and gig it?
I've got so many favourites from that album. It's one of those I keep listening to it all the time, and that's, you know, that's obviously since last November, and I've not found one I'm bored with yet. Normally I get to that stage where I'm like skipping one of them or whatever and going like, oh God, no. But yeah, I mean, I think songs like Whatever It Takes to Survive, or By Your Side, One World, I Will Not Fall. I mean, things like that. Just these are the songs that are basically I'm so proud of, and they are also songs that are saying this is what you're going to get from King now. This is the direction. It's not a direction that we're moving in. It's just how it's progressing. Really,
it's just next chapter of the band. Isn't it?
Really, that's all. That's it, what it is, really, to be honest. And we're utilising the best, you know, of the lads in the band. We're getting the best out of them, and if we've got that kind of talent sitting there, then I want to use it, and I want it to be used right and properly, so that we get the best songs. I mean, that's, to be honest, that's all that matters. You know, that's the one thing we pound into them. It's not about the individual. It's not about me. It's not about them. Like, and you know, like I'm trying to say to the guys, like, you know, like when you're playing a song, step out of yourself and don't think just about your performance. Think about everything. Think about the song and what it means. What you're doing. What does that mean to this song? And that's when we'll get a good song.
It goes back
performance as well.
Goes back to that every detail thing you was on about with Maverick.
Absolutely,
you know, you got to at the end of the day, you've got to serve the song, haven't you?
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that ultimately will make your audience larger, because when you concentrate on finding a song that people can even relate to, or that touches somebody, you know, something like that. I might be singing about personal subjects in my life, personal things that have happened, but you know, if you try and make it as universal as possible for that everyone can take their own interpretation of it and understand it, and maybe go, oh yeah, that reminds me of me and what I did, then it's cool. Then you're sort of you're reaching out there to a wider audience if you can, and that's great. I mean, because that's what we want at the end of the day. Not, you know, don't get me wrong. I don't want more bums and seats for more money. I want this music to be heard, and that's all. I want as many people as possible to hear it.
No, it's killer, man. And obviously, like you kind of referred to yourself earlier as being more of a hammer and chisel kind of guy. In terms of your rig that you're taking out, obviously with being one of the two guitarists in the band, what do you tend to take out? Do you have certain guitars that you always take on the road? Any new ones that you've picked up during lockdown? Like
No, I'm more likely to get rid of ones during the lockdown. No, I tend to these days. I've always started out as a Les Paul guy, and then obviously with the more sort of diverse things needed to be, especially with King, right up until this year when there was only one guitar there. I've been using more of the Stratocaster, so I use a Lone Star Strat, and I've got a deal with bare knuckle pickup, so I've got some bare knuckle slow hands in there along with the humbucker. I use the mules in my Les Paul. I've also got another guitar that my Les Paul, made by Corsa Guitars. They're an American company who basically built this what they call the 59 Peter Green Les Paul, and it's an absolute smasher. It's a belter.
Oh, beautiful, man.
It's beautiful. So I do tend to, for the majority, it's the Stratocaster, and then I'll use a Les Paul for certain things here and there. But it's a nice dynamic to have. And my brother's the same. He'll use both. We grew up together using the same kind of guitars, so we've got that sort of similar dynamic. I use Buddha amps, Black Star amps, and I've got an old. I found an old years ago. I found an old 20-watt Marshall JMP head, 20-watt, and it's an absolute cracker. I remember we showed up to we did a festival just outside Barcelona, a rock festival, and they had all the Marshall amps that they'd got, and they're all racked up there, and I was like, I came on, and I was like moving this big head off this cabinet, sticking this wee tiny one up there, and I could hear the Spanish lads all kind of looking at it, going like, and I could hear them chatting, going like, what's that? And I just sort of said, trust me, lads, you may laugh at the size of it, but wait till you hear the sound of it. And they were like, yeah, okay, mate. And then I switched it on and played it, and I was like surrounded by them, going like, man, what's that? I told you. So yeah, it's all there because I need a diversity in sound, and sometimes I need a really, really sort of kind of a chimey, jangly, clean sound. Then I need some beef, and then I need some more.
Sounds killer, man. I love them. I'm a big fan of bare knuckles. Particularly, I used to have the slow hands in a parts caster I had, and they were just awesome. They could handle being pushed with a bit of gain. They'd clean up really nice, and they just serve all purposes. So sounds killer.
I think they've got enough. They've got enough in them, haven't they? They're not too. They're not like too weak as like the old traditional Stratocaster pickups would be. But they're very hard to drive. They're very clean, and they're not too overpowering either.
Yeah, they've still got that vintage voice
in the middle, aren't they? And you still get that. It still gives you that Strat sound. For me, they're really cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's killer, man.
So King formed in 2008. So with the band having been together for 13 years, I imagine you're immensely proud on everything that you've done so far. But where do you see the band in 10 years' time?
Do you know what? See if we can get through the next year, I'll be happy. No, do you know what, man? It's that for me. It's. I mean, milestones are great. And we've been very lucky in how the trajectory of the band has moved forward all the time. It was a very tough thing for us to do at the beginning. It was very hard. There was a lot of hard work involved, but what kept my faith in it all was, even through the hardest of times, was that it never went backwards ever. It always, even if it was baby steps, sometimes it always moved forward. And that's the great thing about it. And like I said before there, Maverick's the 6th album, and I feel it's just the beginning. So 10 years time, 20 years time, I'll do this till I'm not able, basically. Until I can't walk on a stage, I'll be here doing this, and so will we. As far as I'm concerned, this is our life, this is our love, and King is my soul. So we'll do it for as long as we can, as long as people want to come and watch us.
That's killer. I love the energy, Alan. Like, just got to say, man, I'm well into it. Like, I love the enthusiasm. Like, even after this time, it's like this is just the beginning of the band. Because, like you say, new things coming. It's like, oh, is this going to get better? Like, it's pretty good a bit before, but it's like, is this going to even get better? And I just love that because it's the reason why we all do it. Like, you want to feel like you're constantly moving forward and constantly growing.
Yeah.
You know, which is killer.
I think if you don't feel that way about it, then don't do it. You should move on to something else, man. But this for me is, like I say, this is we're scratching the surface here of what this band's potential is, for as far as I'm concerned, and I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to develop it and see how it develops as well for myself as well. Just and I have been, one of the good things about doing it for so long is I have developed a strange ability to step out of it and look at it for what it is, and it's great to do that. Whereas before I couldn't do that, I wasn't able to do that, but I kind of can now. And you watch it, and it's like, yeah, man, this is and then and I go back to Maverick now, and I think, right. I could have fixed that. I could have done this. I would have done that different. And that makes you realise that you're still hungry for it, and you want to move on to the next set of songs and the next album and improve on that. And I think one of the great things about King is, which to be perfectly honest, a lot of bands never get to achieve, is that now, no matter what way it's come around, each album from number one to this one has been better than the last. We've improved each time. Now, that could most likely be because, on that album number one, I wasn't a very great songwriter. So at least if you get better and better each time, at least you're doing something right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you get a lot of bands sort of peaking on the first or second album, and then it declines after that. They've run out of ideas. So the great thing about this band is that the more we seem to do, the more ideas come, and the better they seem to be. So long may that continue.
Yeah, definitely, man. So in terms of looking forward to what's next, obviously we're releasing this as like a tour special album, so it'll come out on the Thursday. So technically, when this airs, the tour will be starting tomorrow in Leeds. Yeah. And obviously the tour is split into two legs, with the first being supported by When Rivers Meet, and the second with The Damn Truth. They're two awesome support bands. We've had both of them on the podcast before, and they're great guys as well. What was the thoughts behind kind of splitting the tour into two legs, Alan? As obviously it's a bit unusual, but on the face of it, it kind of actually makes quite a lot of sense, Yeah,
I mean, you've got, there's so many factors, I suppose. There's kind of like the fact that it's all been moved so many times. It's been moved and shunted backwards, and then some dates couldn't fit anymore. We had to maybe move here or there. Something got moved into that space, then another one was maybe brought in because we couldn't do that. So I think that it was a good idea to. It's always so fluid, and it's always so. I mean, I feel sorry for Barney, our manager, because he was the one sort of trying to piece all this together all the time, and things. All the goalposts kept getting moved all the time, and it was like, I think he was pulling his hair out at times, going like, man, how am I going to keep trying to fit this all in? So two legs is great because, especially in Scotland, because we've got an Edinburgh show in this run and a Glasgow show in the next one, and you simply can't put them in the same run.
All right.
Those two cities in the same town on the same tour, because inevitably what will happen is you instead of doing it this way, where we get a full house in Edinburgh, and then in February we'll get a full house in Glasgow. If we put them on the both in the same tour, then you get two half-empty places. They're just, Scotland is just too small. Everywhere's too close together. You've got two major cities in Scotland, and they're 45 minutes apart. So
that's a good point.
So things like that are all a factor for everyone. So yeah, and it gives us another run out after the new year as well, before we head off into European territory again with all the luck in the world. That everything's cool, we can manage that. So I mean, next year is going to be a busy year for us as well, and I think the following year, to be honest, is probably going to be when it's probably back in full swing, really, and then I'll be wishing and praying for a break. It's a typical musician, isn't it?
Yeah.
Moan that we've got nothing, and then we get too much and moan that we need a break.
That's it, mate. When that first lockdown hit, Alan, I was like, oh, finally, I can sit on my arse, you know, could finally not have to gig for a bit. And then after about 2 hours of not gigging, I was like, Jesus, what am I going to do?
Yeah, I know, tell me about it, man.
I'll go
Tell me about
down
it, man.
the co-op dressed in what I wear on stage just try to experience it.
The local shop up the street there, man, has like been surviving off of me, man. You know what I mean? Like, the amount of wine we bought.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. But yeah, I mean, well, when I looked at it, I did think that it makes sense, and as well because you're giving fans two different experiences. That's what I liked, you know, with the support bands. I thought that was really cool because if they've seen you like in Edinburgh, it's not like you're trying to give them a similar thing. You know, it's a whole different experience, and people can vibe on whether they want to have two different sides of that, which is really cool.
And you know what, the thing that's always been something that we've been proud of as well as over the years. It's always something we've tried to do. Is you know, we struggled for a long time, and we did, you know, King King's a very in-house band in terms of how we've managed to manage the whole project, build a profile and everything else, and we've kind of it's been through elbow grease, really, to be perfectly honest, and not a massive amount of outside help. So we wanted to give younger bands and stuff like that a chance. We're the type of band who I'm a musician. I'm not one of the people in bands that like see another band and think that's a rival. That's a compadre, man. You know what I mean? That's like, we all do this together. I hate the fact that there's too many bands and artists in this country and everywhere else that treat music like a competition. And it's just not. You and I grew up in different parts of the world, man, different parts of the country. We were not listening and having a love for music. We should be mates. You know, 100%. Not rivals. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, you know, so that's always been our thing. It's like I love being at a festival or somewhere and seeing a great band and going, wow, that was amazing. It makes me want to run and pick my guitar up and go, wow. It makes me want to go and do it. Whereas you find other people like want to shy away and like want to go and put their gear on eBay. You know what I mean? Because someone was good. Well, it would be a pretty boring world, wouldn't it, if there was only one good band in the world? You know what I mean? It's like there's great musicians out there. So we wanted to be the band that helped the younger bands that were struggling as well. Give them a chance to come and play in front of an audience and get them to know people to know who they are. And you know, and that's what we've always done, and that's probably what we'll always do.
No, I really respect that, man. Obviously, beside the tour dates that are kicking off tomorrow with leg 1 and then on the 10th of February for leg 2, have you got any other gigs lined up kind of around that?
There's a few things, yeah. There's a couple of bits and bobs happening. There's a nice rock festival up here, just south of Glasgow, in a place called Troon, which is called Winterstorm. We're going to be playing that this year. We're going to be headlining the Saturday night, along with bands like, you know, Gun and Alcatraz and all these great bands. And I think in January we've got a few. I think we're doing Skegness weekend. And then we're going to cross to Dublin and Northern Ireland, Belfast, for a couple of shows in January.
Oh, amazing, man.
There may be more than that, but off the top of my head, I can't remember.
So, you do a lot better than most, Alice. So you're all right,
I just gave myself a quick reminder before we come on here. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. I'll go for it a bit at least.
Now, one thing that we'd like to finish the show on, it's a bit of a hypothetical question. If you could tour with one band from the past and one band from the present, who would they be?
Oh, you know what? Because they were such a massive, and I mean like, and got inside into my blood influence. Free would be a band from the past. Probably Paul Kossoff and Paul Rodgers were probably the reason I picked a guitar up and essentially wanted to sing. A band from the present. I don't. That's a toughie. That Chris Stapleton.
Good choice, man.
Stapleton is one of the best and most amazing singers and songwriters that there's been for a very, very long time. He's been a breath of fresh air in the music industry. Not only for his talent, but for the fact that he's just seems to come across as just a normal dude, man. You know, he just doesn't. You don't see him doing all the usual garbage, you know what I mean, that comes with a bit of stardom, and he's the songwriting is mind blowing, man. The fact that he can make it sound so simple, it makes you think that you can do that. You listen to Chris Stapleton and you go like, oh yeah, it can't be that hard.
It's the art of a good
boy,
songwriter.
Oh boy, do we learn that that's rubbish talk.
Cool. So we've got King opening, and we've got Chris Stapleton, and then we've got Free. I mean, that's one of the best we've had in a while, right?
Strong
That is killer.
Not bad lineup, eh?
We'll try and put it together. Leave it with us.
Okay, sweet.
Just jump in my time machine.
We'll do what we can, brother. Thanks ever so much for your time. I really appreciate it. So King's first leg of their UK tour kicks obviously tomorrow night in Leeds, before continuing in Liverpool, Exeter, Bexhill, Bilston, Cambridge and Edinburgh. If you've not got tickets already, they're available from kingking.com, gigcartel.com or planetrocktickets.co.uk. I did well then, Ryan, didn't I?
I know, you flew through that.
I know. I thought at one point I was going to pass out because I was literally just full motion, but I got to the end of it. Alan, thanks ever so much for your time. I hope the tour goes well.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
So yeah, that was Alan Nimmo of King. Ryan, did you enjoy the way I kind of like, because obviously Ryan has his little entry into most interviews, and what I like to get the bat ready and I'm getting ready to serve it, and then I like to set the ball on fire and then just throw it at him and just see how he copes to it.
You know when you see those like car crash compilation videos, and you've got, and you see somebody's like just tootling along the road really nicely, and then like some tire off the back of a lorry just comes off and's like hurtling, and they have to like, oh shit, just got to like.
But you handled it well, and you didn't get destroyed by the tire, and we were able to get through to the King interview.
We managed to get there.
Yes, and I enjoyed chatting to Alan. Obviously, it's something that I think I've always wanted. I've always been interested in King because they're a band that I've always seen around. You know, like we said, they've been around for 13 years and stuff, and they always feel like they've been a band that's always been at the top. You know, or kind of around the top. You know, headlining most Planet Rock festivals, and you get that vibe from Alan that he is basically, you know, a seasoned musician. And when I mean seasons, it's that he's a musician in every sense of the word. Do you get that vibe as well? You know, just the love for it.
Well, for me, the hunger's still there. He talks about, you know, like he mentioned, you know, we've done support slots with various different bands and stuff, and you know, like we've done gigs at Wembley and stuff. And he goes, but it wasn't as us, and I want to do that.
Yeah,
you know, as the headliner band.
That's it.
It's like you know, this was cool, but it's not good enough yet.
Yeah.
You know
but
I
loved his energy. Like we said in the
Mm.
interview, I love his energy for where they are now. You know, a few lineup changes. You know, this new songwriter dynamic with him and the keyboard player. It's like, you know, even after 13 years, it's like I think he worded it as even after this time, it only just feels like the band's getting started.
Just the beginning.
And I love that, man. I think that's so cool, you know. And I think for people going out to see King, they're probably seeing them along the journey, you know, or if it's the first time, they're going to be seeing a band that's completely, you know, wants to deliver this next chapter and are excited about this next chapter. Because there's nothing worse than when you're seeing bands and you can tell they're going through the motions, or they're just playing the same songs, recycling the material that got them to where they are. You know, you want to feel like you're supporting a band and you're part of that journey, and you're helping them get to that next chapter, you know, and you're really following a band. I think that's what being a rock fan's all about, you know. So, you know, and it feels like King are really on that journey. So yeah, it'll be a good tour, and I'm sure anyone who heads out will really get a great experience as well with When Rivers Meet on this first leg and Damn Truth on the second.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's going to be an experience. I mean, you can feel the excitement of returning back to a gig as well. And there's, you know, I felt that with speaking to a lot of different bands, but you can feel that that's definitely his thing, isn't it?
Brewing
brewing
like a passionate fart, isn't it? It's just brewing. It's gonna go as soon
majestically
as they get out of there. I try. I got a B in English.
That's astounding.
What do you mean astounding? Don't say it like that. I'm very proud of my beat.
Oh dear. That's it for this week on Beyond the Vibe. If you like what we're doing, you can subscribe, of course. And you can follow us on Facebook to find out what new guests we have each week, as we release a teaser trailer every Wednesday from 10 a.m. And normally we do have the podcast out on a Saturday from 10 a.m. as well. Of course, it's a bit different this week. But if that isn't enough, we also have some other things around the corner. We put out extra vibes every so often, but we also have a new show. Beyond the
You announced this last week, didn't you? Yes.
I know, we did announce this last week. I'm baiting it again this week.
Yeah, get
it. Beyond the Gear, where we go out to different venues and meet different artists, and we talk about their gear, obviously.
Yes, I get to indulge all of my interests, my filthy, dirty interests, and we get to actually go out and socialise, don't we?
I know, which it's a scary concept for those involved.
Yeah. But so far, we've done a couple, and everyone's survived. I think everyone's survived. Well, we've survived, and that's all that matters.
Absolutely.
We run out the door with our content into the darkness.
Yes, I just took my briefcase and ran away. So yes, tune in next week where we might be doing something a little bit different.
Yes,
we'll see you next week.
Be a fuzzy love.
Oh yeah, fuzzier than your face, mate.
Mate, I've got a lot of hair on this body. Right, it was lovely to speak to you anyway, Tom.
You too, bud.
We look forward to whatever you're going to release to us this year. And for those that haven't listened to Starting Gun, which will be re-released at some point this year through Listenable Records, or to the Heart Won't Listen, make sure you check them out and give Wolfshaw some love. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much. You too. Cheers.